I mean, Illinois has had, I think, like the second or third driest winters on record. Well, I don't know if it's all of Illinois, but at least like Chicagoland area, it's been abnormally dry. Like we had like snow like at the beginning of the year, like into New Year's, I think we had some snow, and then we got a little bit like maybe a week after that, like that, like the kind of snow that just like melts the next day. And then we had some that probably stuck around for a couple days, like this past week. But other than that, we've had like, I mean, you know, the amount of snow that we can get, especially in January, February. So it'll be interesting to see if it's gonna push into February, March, and then do like one of those shitty fucking late winters again. Which I really hope. I really hope not, I should say, because I don't want snow on my birthday in May. But
You won't get
we'll
snow
see.
on your birthday in May, but it could very well happen in March.
I've had bitter cold birthdays sometimes. Like they were dry, thankfully, but I've had like weather that could have brought snow if it was wet outside on my birthday. And I'm like, this is May. Like, come on.
That's fair. That is truly fair. Matt, how are you? How is your drive?
Good.
I just want to
Can you hear me
mention,
all right?
you guys heard about the whole Fauci thing, admitting that the vaccines don't really do anything?
I saw an article on that.
It's weird timing, right? Sorry, Matt, you can give it. So I just wanted to put that in.
Oh, I was just saying, can you hear me?
You said what now? My hold on there. My brain needed to hear that. Hold on. What? He did what?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the article so you can see it or put it up on screen.
So, what you're telling me is
There's a few people who are being questioned by Congress today, and I know he was one of them, right? Is that where it happened?
He didn't show up.
Oh. Because I know that Yoel Roth, or whatever the fuck his name is, from Twitter, I know he was being questioned today, and they caught him a couple times, literally lying under oath within the same day. So that's, I don't know if that was the same thing though, like what's going on with all the questioning, but yeah.
I think that was about the how they were working on. It was the January 6th.
And then I also heard that they might be kicking out James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. Imagine Project Veritas without James O'Keefe. Like, what? No.
Nuremberg Trials 2.0 question mark?
Oh, also, I connect a few dots. So they're continuing to mass murder chickens or hens that lay eggs. And the whole reason for that is that eggs are quite literally detoxing the body of these spike proteins. So go figure.
Hey, John, did you hear about the feed?
No.
You haven't heard about the feed?
Okay, basically, if you feed chickens certain types of feed, particularly they discovered any brands that are made by Nestle, such as Purina, the chickens won't lay eggs. It stops them from laying eggs. So they're feeding food to chickens, so they stop laying eggs. And like it's been happening to people all over the country, and people have been coming out saying, "Hey, I literally just switched brands to a different feed, and my chickens started laying eggs the very next day."
It's not just any Purina feed though. I was watching a chicken farmer talk about it, and she said for like she had backyard chickens. I think she said she had about 50 to 100 of them, like somewhere in that range. And so this feed in particular is feed that's more targeted towards people who have background chickens operations, like they have chickens at home type of thing. And it's not all Purina feed. It was a specific type of Purina feed that people who like get it, like I can't remember who she said, but she said that people who would know more about it saying that Purina was kind of contracting their feed sourcing out to other people. So there were mixed amounts of like quality issues going on within the feed, or so they say, because some people, you know, they were feeding their chickens the same feed that was killing all the eggs for some, but it was perfectly fine for others. So they were thinking it was like there's definitely some quality control issues going on top of it. Because this one lady was talking about that she hadn't had eggs for 6 months. The last time she had eggs was in mid-July, and now she was just getting them back, switching her feed more recently. So there's definitely some weird shit going on.
Well, I don't buy that for a minute. That's just an excuse. That's with all the hens and the killings and that big, was it in around the Chicago area or over in Iowa where the big hen house farm burnt down?
Well, these would be separate targets, because you know farmers that buy their feed en masse are going to be getting different stuff than, you know, somebody who just has a couple chickens in their backyard. So, you know,
Yep.
if you hit the mass quantity ones, you're going to fuck over people who buy them at the store. And then if you hit people locally, you're going to fuck people over who get chickens from their friend or their grandma or whoever the fuck they know that has chickens. So it's like, you know, it's different stuff all happening at the same time. But
I'm
yeah,
sure
saying
those
it's
large hen
Whoa,
farms go in bulk.
whoa!
what?
James O'Keefe, the founder and chairman of Project Veritas, has taken a paid leave from the conservative nonprofit media organization as its board considers whether to remove him from his leadership position, according to current and former employees of the organization.
The meeting's going to be held on Friday, whether or not they determine they're
Holy
going to get rid of him right after the
Like,
Pfizer
board?
release too. So
what the fuck?
people
That's
are saying
paid. That's
people are saying that the
paid.
board is compromised because, you know,
They've
you mean
been
like
studying.
bird flu
They have.
period.
Yes, they have been studying and making bird flu for a while now. This has been in the this is part of their plan. Russia released these documents.
Well, bird flu has been studied for a long ass time, so it makes sense that they would be studying it in the labs out there. There was like 32 of them. One of them has to have fucking bird flu in them.
A lot of them were actually studying this bird flu. It was in conjunction with this whole, you know, COVID-19 stuff. We got to remember this COVID strand came from a bat.
Yeah, and I mean, I've played enough Plague Inc. in my life to know that the bird upgrade, when you're trying to spread a pandemic, is one of the best ones because it crosses land borders.
Yes.
About the
They,
Purina thing, there's actually a lawsuit against Purina right now, and Purina's not the highest one. There's two companies above them. I listened to this with Jason Q and two other people, a video today, and so the woman who wasn't getting eggs, she switched to goat feed and like black sunflower seeds, and then that chicken started producing eggs. But the Andrew, I think the store that you're talking about was Tractor Supply Company was having food problems. Their chicken feed was like Purina. So we in the South we have Tractor Supply Company. It's all over the place. It's like where
Well,
you
the
get your
lady in the video
chickens.
didn't say specifically where she got it from. She was just talking about a specific type of Purina food, like the name of the variety, like the brand of it.
Yeah, and my uncle when he was he's a scientist and everything. They would inject chicken eggs, so I don't know if it's in the food. They talk about vaccinating our food, right? Putting the vaccination in our food. Maybe they're putting in the chicken feed. I don't know. I have no clue.
And they're talking about vaccinating the pigs and the cattle.
Not vaccinating. No. Gene therapying them because they all want to inject them with mRNA vaccines.
Yeah, sorry.
Which,
That
as
word
we
is
all,
like
which
burned in
as
my
we
head.
all know, is the true vaccine. But it is what we end up just calling them now because so many people just call them vaccines, even though they're really not. Like they don't act the same way. that the supposed science behind vaccines is supposed to work.
I guess we know who hung up the call.
Yeah, I saw that.
And doesn't those mass-produced chicken? Don't they also feed them chicken meat, chicken byproducts? I don't know. I heard that, but who knows?
So
I
I
haven't
gotta
heard
get.
that one. I have heard that they will feed pigs pork though, because pigs will eat anything.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
I gotta give a big shout out before we fully go into this tonight. Thank you, Junk, for curating this lovely AI generated art. It's the more I stare at it, the more I love it because there's many layers to it. The more you really look at it, and it's fantastic.
Satan Valley Part 2.
I also want to make note. I was mentioning this to Matt today. Next week, we are definitely talking about AI because this chat GDP thing is going by too fast for us not to talk about it. And I know Dylan's not.
The whole Dan thing is so fucking cool. But
Well, not
it's
even.
like it just makes me wonder though, is it a because somebody was like made a thread on Twitter talking about it maybe giving you what you want to hear rather than speaking the actual truth, because what a
Yeah,
lot of
and
people were doing was they would get these like all those viral prompts that you saw of it like saying some base stuff. What people would do is they would put an input to like rephrase that, which is pretty much what it was doing. So I don't know if that's actually what we're seeing, but regardless, it's still saying some base shit.
as well as, there are completely harmless things that are being affected by, just basic outages on their system because they're doing massive upgrades right now because of the process of Microsoft trying to integrate Chat GDP into Bing. And that's a completely different subject entirely. But just focusing
Wait, what?
on it. Yeah, hold on. That's a completely different subject entirely. I will get into that. But what I wanted to go into now is I'm sure you've heard about this, but you didn't fully know. There's new Seinfeld content being made by Chat GDP. Yeah, on Twitch.
Yeah, I
And
watched it.
and did you see it say racist stuff?
I watched someone reacting to it on YouTube. They were watching it live and they had to cut it because YouTube
Yeah,
wouldn't
it got
allow them to
banned.
upload the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it got banned. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know why it got banned?
Oh God, what did it say?
Because the Da Vinci servers that the new Chat GDP that everybody's excited about went down, and they went on to the first version that doesn't have a lot of the precautions and a lot of the safety measures that are involved. So it was just kind of its own beast. They basically they took their hands off the wheel for 5 minutes.
It went full 4chan.
It went full 4chan. Yep, 100%. That just goes to show you the society subconscious of the internet. Anyways, to go into Bing, and before we fully go into this, because it's too big not to even just mention it. Once Microsoft implements Chat GDP to Bing and Google doesn't have anything, the landscape of search engine is completely different. It is war at that point. And I don't think many people fully understand that because the very fabric of how you look up something on the internet is going to change. I'm going to repeat that. The very fabric of how you're going to interact and search for something on the internet will change. You are no longer searching based off of keywords. You are no longer looking through massive pages of different articles and forums. You are just asking a question and it reading the internet in a matter of milliseconds, like reading the entirety of the internet in a matter of milliseconds to seconds and generating you an answer. And as Andrea said, it's something that could possibly turn into what you want to hear versus anything that's actual facts. We could very scarily move into an age and an information era to where it's no longer just facts, but it's straight a computer telling you bias. Propaganda.
Google does have their Bard. I had to look up on Twitter what the fucking name was. I don't know why they picked Bard, but that's the name of their Chat GPT competitor. And when I was looking through it, I saw a tweet that said they posted a video of them, or a live stream of them, like demonstrating the Bard AI, and it fucked up massively on air. They ended the live stream and then took down the video, and now the stock is down like 9%. So, things aren't looking too hot for Google's AI right now.
Wow. That's crazy, junk. Oh, wow. You're okay. Xenox, if you're going to talk about that one, you're going to have to go into it because I'm not going there. That's no, that's part 3 if you really want to go there. So, we had a couple M-class flares just 2 days ago and yesterday. Nothing super major, nothing super scary to worry about. Just the sun being a little bit active. Nothing was actually aimed at us, but it is something to be noteworthy of. And I just also want to make note that a lot of these sunspots have not hit us yet or come close to hit us, but they're inching it ever so close. All we need is one big one, and bye-bye power grid.
That's something that I've been thinking a lot about, dude. How it's like, because we're not even at the peak of solar maximum yet. Like, this is going to be a genuine daily threat for about the next 5 years or so.
Yep.
That if the Earth can manage to make it out the next 5 years of getting hit with a big enough solar flare that could take out our power grids, we could potentially go into the solar flash, per se, or the micronova, with electricity, or losing power soon before that, like months before, rather than years and years and years before. And it's just like, oh man, you just really gotta pray sun be nice to us.
I don't know. I feel like, to a degree, there has to be some galactic intervention with that one.
I feel like there's also a spiritual thing.
Yeah, like
the sun is also connected to us on a spiritual level.
So I highly doubt that it's just gonna split off our connection and delve us into chaos like that. It already has done that before. I don't know if it would do it to us now.
It just depends, because if it does it, depending on whenever the electricity goes out, that's when the majority of people are going to die.
Yeah.
Especially people who live in city centers and stuff. Just not even because of like the lack of power itself, but just the amount of fighting that would end up happening and people just going batshit crazy. So would that be a good thing to like cull all of those people at the beginning and then the rest deal with the solar flash, and then they get culled then too? Or is it all going to happen in pretty rapid succession?
I feel like pretty rapid succession.
That's what I would rather hope for. Makes it more.
You know, I have a pretty controversial take on all this, if you guys want to hear it.
Go for it.
So, yes, Andrea and Scuba, you were right. The sun is conscious, and we are in its nursery. So, it's not trying to kill us. If anything, it's just slowly assisting our evolution of consciousness. But that being said, if there were anything to happen prior to the big one, of which has many names, it's more or less initiating or retracting souls that are ready for the process. So another way to think of that is that, say for example, with the earthquake we had in Turkey, I think death toll was up to 12,000. Some people can say, look at that and be like, oh my God, 12,000 people died. This is horrible. This is horrific. But take yourself in a very neutral perspective, out of this earth plane and start to see what it actually means. To earth at this time is of no coincidence. We are actively acclimating to the sun's energy and how it responds to Gaia. And as watching that and as feeling that connection is going to establish who's ready to be here and who's ready to leave. And sometimes, in some cases, when it feels itself regressing from that timeline, it would actually be better for it to expire a lifetime rather than to continue it on, as to preserve not only the experience of having learned everything it's needed to learn, but also to reset and recharge and maybe take another shot at what it's meant to accomplish, either in this lifetime or the next. So just interesting thought.
No, it was a very good thought. I appreciate that thought.
That's much along the lines of honestly what I think about. Because I got the way that when I talk about these things, the way that I phrase them, I feel like I'm rather crass with it. Because I just straight up just talk about just people dying. Because that's just the way that my brain thinks about it. But like, or the way that it thinks about it out loud. But like inside, it's like, I know that these people were here to play their roles in the show that we are living in right now. And that show is going to be set to end at some point, but there are some characters that are going to make it to the sequel, but not everyone here wants to be a part of the sequel, at least in this current human body form. This world is very poisonous, so I wouldn't blame someone to come here, be born here, be in their 30s, 40s, 50s when this event happens, and then physically die, but then come back here and physically die and kill off their rather poisoned body, considering how many chemicals are in our food, water, clothes, just air all around us, to get rid of that body and then come back with a different one. I can't blame them. But then there's just also just people who just simply just aren't here to live in a higher vibration of this earth. They're here to, work out some karma in the lower vibrations of this earth while it still exists. Ooh, look at that solar flare. I see something shiny and I get distracted.
No, you're not wrong, though.
So I wouldn't say that's very controversial, John.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to grasp that because everything is very personalized here. Like, yeah, we all have empathy, and that's fair. We need empathy to survive.
Not all of us.
But well, we're working on it, right? I just think that sometimes people forget about soul con, why people came here as far as spirit goes, and there's missions to be fulfilled, and once the mission's fulfilled, maybe it's not right, maybe it's not time, because out of all of human history, considering where we are right now, modern day human history, from what we realize, we are meant for this ascension process. That's the whole reason why we are so intimately connected with the sun and all of its processes. That's why we have now a graph that we can relate all of our physical stimulus with, and just watch this macrocosmic connection play out in real time, which is something so powerful. If it was nothing, it wouldn't be anywhere, but everybody is talking about it. So, just as Andrea said, solar minimum going into solar maximum, I think the max we had this year was around 66. It might be higher than that. I'm going to have to double check that number. But considering back in 2019, when we hit 170, expect numbers, expect big shifts. And it's when these shifts happen that society itself changes, because the powers that be lose their influence. And we're given back all of that sovereignty through newly awakened minds, people who are freshly coming online. And it's beautiful to see. So anyway, what you just saw with the videos that Scuba shared, the blue one is a double flare, which is extremely rare as a back-to-back, which is pretty cool. And then the last video that you just saw was the same beginning photo that he showed, which was just a still frame of that. Absolutely beautiful. Oh my God. I want that on my wall, like as art. It is so beautiful. And look at that. The sun is as flat as a pancake, everyone. I just want to make sure everybody knows.
Oh, you're a flat sun theorist? Me too. A flat sunner.
So we have established that it's not the sun that's going to kill us. It's the rock we live on.
You know what's funny? Like flat Earth theory, they don't equate for anything as far as earthquakes go. Like if it's just a flat surface and there's no tectonic plates.
I know the one technology that they themselves cannot deny that proves that the Earth is not flat. GPS. Do you know why?
But
Because you need 24 satellites to circumference the Earth to make sure you have a constant pinpoint accuracy of where you're at.
see, the thing is, like Google Earth, right? They're constant. I mean, I don't know how recent their pictures are, but you basically you go out in your backyard, you put a bunch of rocks in like the pattern of a smiley face, and you leave it there, and you refresh, and maybe one day you'll see your backyard, and then you zoom out and you scroll over to China, and you realize that it's all real. Like we need to get over the fact that it's not real, because you can find your own house. And if your own house isn't real, if that's painted in, you know, I'm so over it. I just want to say this here, Scuba, because I know we're in the after show right now. Good God, this community would be so strong if we had people just learn physics. You know what I mean? Like if we could just get past that and like we could all just like rally together. You know how powerful the spiritual community would be?
Okay. But at that point, you just got to divert them to the man who lost his life sending a steam rocket to the atmosphere to try and prove the Earth was flat. And failed twice and died the third time. That's what you need to do.
He just hit the firmament.
Yeah, he did.
No, not the firmament. He hit the glass dome. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hit the glass dome, came back down. Yeah. Do you want to know why his third one failed? Everything was right, except the fact that when he launched, so did his parachute.
Oh no.
Yep. Exactly what you think happened. Physics took over. That rocket came back down to the ground like a fucking bullet. He was a pancake.
Wait a second. Look at that photo that you have on screen.
That's the Flash. Not the Flash.
Do you see a dragon's head in it?
I do.
Yeah.
I've been staring at this.
Yeah. Oh my lord. There's the nose. There's the mouth. There's
like the ears or whatever. Like that's so cool.
That's trippy.
That makes it even more poster worthy.
Yeah, it does. Like you do the outline of the dragon. Oof.
So at some point, can we talk?
Make a fantastic YouTube intro. Make that your logo. Have the flash, then have it freeze frame. Have the logo come in. That's
pretty cool.
Thinks.
That's pretty cool.
Can you play the videos I sent you?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know where they are. They're probably all up in our fucking chat. Yeah,
there's one of them. And then there's the other one.
I did radiotomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HARP uses 1 billion watts beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with 1 billion watts, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake.
Damn.
And that is relevant to the earthquake in Turkey, who, as we know, aligns with Russia in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. And they're thinking about leaving NATO, or was it the UN? But basically the European circle jerk they have over there.
Or was it the EU?
This one, the EU, European Union. Well, I don't think they're the EU. Yeah, they're the. Sorry, my brain's not working right now. Yeah, it was NATO. And anyway, this is freaking insane because this video game basically just predicts the whole modern world right now. So you can go ahead and play that video. I forget which one it was. I didn't realize there were multiple. Might have been that first one.
Yeah, it was the NSF at C4, the statue in the
Yeah,
first
it
place.
was.
UNATCO's here to put the pieces back together. Ask me, I think the government did it. They want people to think the NSF are terrorists.
I think the government made the plague on purpose to get rid of the population growth. Number one, in 1945, corporations paid 50% federal taxes. Now they pay about 5%. Number two, in 1900, 90% of Americans were self-employed. Now it's about 2%. The entire executive branch is handpicked. 19 of the last 23 U.S. presidents have been members of the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is financed by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Did you ever ask what it's for? The surveillance, the police, the shoot-on-sight laws. Is that freedom? The more of us you kill, the more that secessionism lives in the hearts of the people. Ever wonder why big car companies pay 2% tax while the guys on the assembly line pay 40%? Corporations are so big you don't even know who you're working for. That's terror.
That is crazy.
You gotta play it.
It's 9:30. I want to try and wrap up the night.
All right.
So are there any final thoughts? I know Hope wanted to mention something.
Yeah, when I got cut off, or when my computer went down, actually we're talking about the Protestants and the Catholics, but from what I understand, truly the authentic Bibles go back to the Hebrews, and that was way before the Christians and the Catholics. But nobody seems to talk a lot about those.
You can thank the Crusades for that one.
And well, a lot of those books though that were a part of the old Torah. So I guess that's the the Hebrew Bible, right? It's called the Torah. A lot of those books some of those books were listed in this book here, and is talked about in this book here that I have that listed off all of those other apocrypha that Scuba didn't list. A lot of those were a part of it too. Like there's a whole a little introduction to before he lists them all off where he mentions that. And in fact, there was actually, he said something in this book about texts coming from India and stuff that were in some versions of the Bible. And that's often talked about a part of where Jesus went to when he was still but a wee child or a teenager, in all of those decades that aren't listed in the Bible anywhere, of like his like Jesus's missing years before he hit 30. That was often where they said that that's where he went, among other places. Like he traveled all over, I guess modern day the Middle East and Asia, because that's where all of like the spiritual, they're not the spiritual, but like the gurus of the time to like learn all of the esoteric knowledge. That's where you would need to go, and that's what he did. And they said that that's what's written about in these Bibles, in these books of the Bible that were taken out. Now, this book that I have, he argues that what they did at the Council of Nicaea was portray Jesus to be a actual man, when the Bible before that only ever talked about him as a metaphor.
Interesting.
And that's actually what he centers this entire book around. Like, this entire book goes into quotes of the Bible, and then using the words that, like, the double meaning, the pretty much he's like interpreting the double entendres of a lot of the specific words chosen, and then looking at their original roots. And then there's actually a cohesive story of different bodily functions, specifically ones that happen when you do Kundalini meditation, and like your chakras and astrology, and like all of these different aspects that are like coded into the Bible and shit. And this dude, he read it. What's his name? George W. Carey.
I'll be right back.
He wrote this in like the early 1900s. And it's really cool. I've been digging into it bits and pieces, and there's a YouTube channel that I watch that they do videos on this book, and so I'll read the sections along with them because I like people reading to me out loud. But yeah, it's a really fascinating book. Like but that whole idea of like Jesus not even being an actual person but a metaphor has been wrangling my brain ever since I started reading this book. I'm trying to find the page. He talked about it, and I know it was in the 90s. Hold on.
Oh, if that comes out, won't that blow some people's minds?
Right? Oh, where was it? Was it here? Oh, yeah. Okay, found it. So we have here, the Council of Nicaea, dominated by Constantine, voted that the symbols of the human body were persons, that Jesus was a certain historical man, a contention utterly and indubitably without foundation. In fact, and all who quote unquote believed the story would be saved and forgiven here and now. The idea appealed to Constantine as an easy way out for his troubled mind, and so the scheme of salvation by the actual blood of a real man or God was engrafted to the world. Constantine and his dupes saw that the only way to perpetuate the infamy was to keep the world in ignorance of the operation of cosmic law, so they changed the times and the seasons, among other things. This is when it goes into astrology.
Does it talk, meaning they changed the calendar?
Well, yeah, so it keeps going. So it says, so they changed the times and the seasons. The date that they made made the sun enter Aries was March 21st. Why? March 21st should be the first day of Aries, the head. April 19th should be the first day of Taurus, the neck, and so on through the 12 signs. But these designing schemers knew that by thus suppressing the truth, the people might come to realize what was meant by, quote, the heavens declare the glory of God. Again, the moon in its monthly round of 29 and a half days enters the outer stars or suns of a constellation 2.5 days before it enters the central suns of the constellation that are known as the signs of the zodiac, or the circle of beasts. But even unto this day, the whole Antichrist world, so-called Christian, Except the astrologers go by almanacs that make the moon enter the sign of the zodiac 2½ days before it does enter it, and thus perpetuate the lie of the pagan Constantine, the Antichrist. Yeah, this book is this a whole chapter on the Antichrist? Yeah, this whole chapter is on the Antichrist. It's literally called the Antichrist.
Again, what is the name of the book?
I could post a link to it. I bought a physical copy of it on Amazon, for a couple bucks. I think it was like $6 total. But the PDF version of it is free online. And there's actually a few versions of it too. Like there's like an EPUB version, like a PDF, like a full text, so you can actually search each individual word and look for key terms, that kind of stuff. So
Be
let me
great.
get the link. It's called, what is it called again? God-Man, the Word Made Flesh is the name of it. I think it came out in 1915? Something like that. The original text, at least. Let me get the link. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, it's a utterly fascinating book because it uses Bible quotes to like describe the way that like your cerebral fluid and your spinal fluid like flows through your brain and like all these kinds of things, and it's like completely like laid out in the Bible when you use like the correct translations of words. It's fascinating. Where's my app? Here we go. Oh, dang it. I copied the wrong link. Stupid. Here it is. Yeah, so I posted it in the mystery school chat that we have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, is there a part 3 to this?
I'm pretty sure there's going to be.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, there's a few more connections I want to make, especially with Dylan. Hopefully, he can join us and connect the rest of the dots. But I had a curious prompt that I'm gonna just put out there to all of you guys. Like, what is, you're speaking about everything with Catholicism and Christianity, etc. What do you think the psychology is behind Satanism? Do you think that Satanists actually believe what they believe, or are they only believing it because they want to be kind of like rebels in contrast against whatever the normality is in the collective? What are your thoughts?
I don't think they know what they technically are believing in.
Well,
is
which
guess.
Satanists specifically? Because there's different types of Satanists.
Well, let's start first with the old school, like Vatican style, like the bloodline.
Like Satan, like they worship the actual deity, like theistic Satanism, where they like worship Satan as their god, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because there's also the atheistic Satanism, but that's more modern.
Oh. Is it related to bloodline? Because they've done.
I feel like they. Oh yeah, keep going.
On women who at early ages have become, they've been groomed. And one of them in particular was, and it was with Michael Jacob, but she's well known. She was in the early 60s, I want to say, and she was a child victim of political persons. And she was, she had the Stockholm syndrome, she had the MK Ultra, the whole 9 yards, and she ended up having a child. And even the child didn't have to be groomed. And what they found is that some of the maternal instincts, spirit, does cross over into the fetus, the infant, and it's like a continuation of the mind control, which I thought that is really interesting.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because there is kind of a psychic connection between the mother and their child, especially when they're still in the womb. So if
They
that
sync
mother is being
heartbeats.
actively brainwashed while they're pregnant, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to brainwash that child once they're earthside.
Well, and
And I
also
guess
they like
I
it
guess they also believe that
endorphins.
it actually works for them. They get something out of it, because I don't believe that if they didn't get anything out of it, that it would still be continuing.
Yeah, she was a child victim of George W. And also, she started. I don't know how she ended up getting out, but she was even familiar with HRC, Hillary, and she said of all the persons that are the worst of the worst of the worst evil, it was George W. and Hillary that take the cake.
So you were mentioning, Andrea, modern day Satanism. I'm sure everybody's seen the Grammys by now or got clips of what happened
Oh, I fucking love it.
with that whole
I don't know what
satanic
happened.
thing. Oh, pull it up, Scuba. We're gonna like this.
They
I don't even know
masked
if
it.
you can find full quotes. The full performance I don't think is online because I tried watching it, but you have to watch it in clips.
Just type in "unholy Grammys 2023."
Yeah. And it was actually leaked before it even happened. Because these things go through a whole bunch of dress rehearsals. So there was an article that came out on one of those like Hollywood like gossip sites talking on the 4th. So that was what? Oh, so the day before. It came out on the 4th talking about how like this is going to really upset Christians, like it's over the top satanic like camp is what they were kind of describing it as, which it really was.
Yeah, they're getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Paid for by
Oh, the
Pfizer.
Super Bowl's going to be. That was the funniest part. Oh my god. Here's your satanic ritual sponsored by Pfizer. Oh god. That's how you know this is a movie, man.
No, I saw something today that was saying how Baphomet was like representative of trans people because he has like breasts and then a penis.
Yeah.
And
Hermaphrodite.
it makes me just realize like everything that's going on in society today about trying to glorify that, and I don't know, it's just so interesting like how there's so many symbolic connections.
But what I always found interesting about it is, well, because it's like I feel like they were able to convince men to transition. Like they were able to like indoctrinate, like to be able to because the reason why men get gender dysphoria and the reason why women get gender dysphoria are largely for two very, very different reasons. A lot of men who experience gender dysphoria experience a form of autogynephilia, where they get off on the idea of them as a woman, like wanting to have sex with themselves as a woman. And which is like it's a known paraphilia is what it's called, where it's like pedophilia is actually considered a type of paraphilia. It's just like I can't remember the proper definition of it. It's like a abnormal sexual fetish pretty much. And it comes from a lot of that. And they were able to tap into that, which makes sense too in a way because that's Baphomet. Because if you imagine like what you imagine like a male to female, like a tranny, porn star, it was pretty much a female presenting like has fake boobs and but still a real dick. And that is Baphomet through and through. But in order to fully get there, they're gonna have to do it through, they're going to have to get to women, but they have to get to women in a different way. And the way that they get to women is in puberty. They, you know, gender dysphoria is actually, I think 5 times more common in girls with autism than girls without autism. And, you know, as a girl with autism who had gender dysphoria, I can definitely attest to how it's very easy for you to get trapped into it, because every woman who goes through puberty, or girl that goes through puberty to become a woman, hates her body. Like, it's frankly a very normal part of development, and it's kind of like a what's the word, where it's like a step you have to go through, like in growing up, pretty much, like to learn to love yourself again as a woman. And that's kind of why it gets destroyed when you're a kid. And but what happens when you're autistic is you never resonated with the idea of being a woman to begin with. And so when you hit that with puberty, it makes you want to not be a woman. And well, what other options are there when you're not a woman? Well, it's to be a man. And now in more recent day, it's also to be non-binary, which people, like girls who are identifying as non-binary, are still getting top surgery. They're less likely to get bottom surgery, which is smart. Because cutting off your boobs is one thing, but chopping off a chunk of your flesh and about 17 procedures to make a fake penis is a whole nother ball game. But, and it's like they finally have achieved both ends of the spectrum that they need to do. They got men, they were able to feminize men, and now they've been able to masculinize women and get their hermaphroditic dreams that they aspire to have us be. Genderless, you know, own nothing and be happy little NPC drones.
But Trump literally just came out like condoning that, right? Like saying gonna hold the surgeons accountable for gender mutilation surgeries.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, you haven't seen that?
Oh, he's been posting so much on Truth, it's hard to keep up these days.
Oh no! It was like a video. Like he was like
really?
talking to a camera. Like basically, I think
It was
like
an interview with the RSBN. I posted on new Templars group chat. You got to look back on it.
Oh, okay. He was talking about wanting to prosecute the doctors who've done this.
Yeah, and then like to stop it in general, like make sure it doesn't ever happen again.
Stop it federally. Yeah. That's what needs to be done, man. Because if the option was presented to me to stop my puberty and get put on testosterone when I was probably, when was I the worst? However old you are in like the 7th grade, I would say, that age, which is what, like 12, I think. Yeah, I totally would have done it.
But
and would
that's
have
like
done anything to have been able to get it, even if I had to lie, which a lot of these girls do.
that's basically like telling a 14-year-old girl who's
Here's
just
an easy way
trying
out.
to like. No, well, it's not just that. It's like telling a 14-year-old girl like that wants big boobs, so she gets like the male attention, whatever, and then the surgeons being like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." Like that,
Right?
like it. There should be some layers to this, you know. Like we can't just grant all the wishes, because you know, sometimes people aren't in the right state of mind at all. Like,
and you're definitely not the right state of mind when you are a teenage girl. Same for a teenage boy too. Like, fuck. But that's what
yeah,
they
he was
also
talking.
want.
He was talking about puberty blockers too, like to ban those.
Oh, puberty blockers? And you know what's amazing? So I'm pretty sure one of the drugs that they use for puberty blockers is the drug that we used to give pedophiles, like to castrate them.
Someone talked
And it's
about
like,
that.
oh,
They
how
said it was in.
how the turntables.
It was some drug company. It was like Azteca. I
AstraZeneca?
believe. No, it was actually a company's name. It was like Azteca or something like that.
Oh, that sounds like a
I have to go
pharmaceutical
back
company.
to the video. It was 2.5 hours long, but.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like there was that drug, and it's like, Jesus, like how society has fallen.
You know, I had a granddaughter that had precocious puberty, And at 8 and 9 years of age, her body was already developing as though she was 14 or 15. So they put her on a blocker, and I can't remember the name of the drug. I'm a nurse and I should remember
I
that.
think it starts with a W, doesn't it?
Well, or a P. It's also the same drug that they give men with prostate cancer that pulls the PSA back down. And because precocious puberty has, if it's left alone, has some potential adverse effects when they get older, like ovarian cancer, dying at a young age. It really has some, and it did help her.
I thought it was for when you're under the age of 7 for precocious puberty.
She
Like,
was
what's the
8
age?
or 9, and she
Really?
was already developing pubic hair and wearing a bra. And
Oh, so I know some girls who went under precocious puberty then.
yeah,
Because one of my friends was almost fully developed by the age of 9.
it's really traumatic because her behavior was just, it was like PMS multiplied times 10.
Oh, that's crazy. But the puberty blockers, how long was she on them for?
2.5 to 3 years, and she's off them now. Things seem more on schedule now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's about when it was always supposed to hit. I mean, that's why quinceañeras are at 15, you know, sweet 16. It's like supposed to be around the ages of when you become a woman, when puberty is pretty much done. Because puberty is pretty much done once you have your period regularly for 2 years as a woman, from what I've heard. Or at least, well, if you never have a regular period, that's a sign of something else, but that was always like what I've heard is the indicator that it's done with. But I was a late bloomer. I had the opposite problem.
So, no, with the gender mutilation surgery, I was watching that, and I think it was about 80% of a group they surveyed were in remorse, like buyer's remorse. They like became extremely depressed for their decision, and it's just like, they get so high off this adrenaline and support from society. It's like, yeah, do it, be yourself, like, and all this kind of stuff, not realizing that, like, you're perfect, you're fine, like, you are who you're supposed to be, and that surgery is only going to alter that natural state. So
yeah, it's such a nasty thing to do to someone, to feed into someone's delusions about themselves.
And they're minors too. If they get consent from the parents, oh my god.
Oh, that's the worst part. I mean, but that's how you know that society has fallen, is when we allow these things to happen to our kids.
It's all medical, and just they've lost money, and they have to redirect their decision making because we've caught on. So it's that, and plus the vaccines come out, and then the spike proteins and the eggs and everything, and now Biden makes on the State of the Union address talking about cure for cancer again. I'm like, oh, good Lord, what an idiot.
Did you see what Trump said about Biden?
You mean
it's
his
State of the
100
Union
tweets?
He's like, he actually like complimented him in a few of them, and he complimented Jill Biden in another one.
Oh yeah, he was saying, I wish him the best of luck, even though he's screwing the country up. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's also like, he looked rather put together tonight as opposed to him normally. Like, they were still like backhanded compliments, but I saw someone post him on Twitter, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting tone.
Well, they had him pumped full of drugs too.
I really wonder what cocktail they give him.
Wait,
well, I mean, then you saw Kamala's neck thing with the rubber. Then, the Republicans just hassling him, and everything he said was backwards. Didn't make any sense.
I'm happy to admit that I have not heard a single clip from it. I have seen them, but I refuse to put the audio on them.
If you do, you got to watch the the hearing that happened today for Twitter, it'll cheer you right up.
Oh, I saw people. I've been on Twitter. Well, it was funny. The one time, it's like I intuitively knew that Twitter wasn't going to be working because that was when I wasn't on it when it went down. I wasn't home, but yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, the lights went out twice. The power went out twice. They had to recess for 5 to 10 minutes. They came back. Boebert, Green, Higgins, Sanders, Clark, Jim Jordan, and there's a few more just ripped into Twitter badly. Yeah, the best one was Higgins when he said, "This is an investigation," and then comes the arrest afterwards, and that was just fire right there.
Oh God, I would love if those like grimy little executives at Twitter got fucking arrested, even if it was just for show. I don't care. Just to see them arrested would just feel just a little dopamine hit.
Well, they were also connecting them to former FBI employees and saying that it's a revolving door. So they're going to connect it to the FBI. It's just things are happening very fast, but just be patient still. This week has been crazy.
It really has, man. Just keeps getting better and better.